The Housing Committee sets goals for 2015. Sandy Neck staff looks to build a meeting area. Plus, we get details on the town's financial status with Finance Director Mark Milne. These stories and more on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, December 17th, 2014. I'm Sarah Mantle. The Housing Committee is looking to the future. The committee began setting goals for 2015 during its meeting this week. Town Council liaison Paul Hebert told the committee that the upcoming year can be a very productive one.
Crying need for housing. There is not a single strategic plan that's put out in this town that does not have housing as a major component. When we look at our infrastructure, wastewater right now is a definite, and that's protecting our drinking water. But then right after that is, and it's almost like this, employment, jobs, and housing. Every plan I'm looking at, that's what we're talking about. But it seems like housing is something like a catch word, and we know it's supposed to put it in there, but I'm not so sure how serious we are about it. So it's time to say, so this committee really is in a position to be listened to in the community. So if we come up with proposals, ideas, and any way to encourage that. So in my conversations, I went and spent quite a bit of time with the town manager saying, how do we move forward and how do we make a change? So we don't own that property. It's owned by the developer. But it's time to get him back at the table and to say, that other project fell through. That doesn't mean that project shouldn't move forward in some way. What do we have to do to help make that project move forward? So one of the things that we could do is, as a committee, is create almost like a survey, if you will, that we would send out to every component, that any group that's touching the housing issue, right from Habitat to the Housing Assistance Corporation, Housing for All Corporation, which is Champ Homes.
Hebert says his goal is to get more local housing organizations to work together next year. The committee will meet again January 20th. A new meeting area could soon be built on Sandy Neck. Beach Park manager Nina Coleman presented plans for a lean-to during the Conservation Commission meeting this week.
As you know, the Winders Cottage is town-owned, and there's some pictures in that packet I provided you. We demoed it last spring. It was a derelict property, unsafe, but I did retain the footprint. I retained the foundation, or what was left of the footings, in hopes of doing a project such as this one. What we want to do is create a lean-to in that area, such as an Adirondack lean-to, and have that available for groups to go out, such as the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, mountain bike clubs, recreational organizations. Pete's got another idea. Audubon, another good one. So any group that can be responsible for their behavior can go out there and enjoy this absolutely beautiful location. It's sort of high up on a bluff overlooking the marsh. We do want to put a fire pit in there, a tenting platform, and as I said, a bench and a lean-to with some minor trimming of trees to maintain the view and for safety of the fire pit. So that's the project. And before I turn it over to Thatcher, I just want to make it clear that we're taking this kind of in a couple of phases. That's a lot to ask for one Eagle Scout project. So I am asking through this filing to do the entire lean-to, and there's a concept of what that might look like in your packet. Thatcher is taking on the tenting platform, the bench, and the fire pit, and his group would be involved with in constructing that, and also at least part of the funding for that. So that's the piece that he's going to talk about.
Eagle Scout candidate Thatcher Drake would be responsible for much of the project. He says a lean-to would be a great addition to the area.
When I was a little bit younger, the Boy Scouts did a hike out in the Sandy Neck area, and when we were about a mile and a half out approximately where the location is, ironically, it began to pour buckets and very bad weather, and it was kind of a little bit of an inspiration for this project itself. I think it's a very important thing to have out there because, except for the halfway house, which is a few miles out, there's not really too much in the way for shelter for anyone who might be out in this area. And Sandy Neck has always been an important place to me. I've grown up near it, and I just wanted to add that in because that's sort of my inspiration for this. The platform itself, as officer said, was going to be 9 by 12, and a bench is going to be jutting off adjacently to it. The fire pit will also be on the site. Funding for the project will hopefully be all in the form of donation, but in addition to this, I can fundraise with the troop whatever I need to specifically.
The Conservation Commission approved the project unanimously. It will next go before the Old Kings Highway Historic District Committee. The Finance Department closely monitors town revenues each year. Barnstable This Morning host Sarah Colvin gets details on this year's projections from Finance Director Mark Milne.
So it's obviously we're getting to the end of the calendar year, but we're also just about halfway through the fiscal year. So wanted to talk a little bit about how things are going this fiscal year in terms of revenues.
Yes, as you know, we monitor the revenues closely every month to make sure that we're trending favorably towards our estimates, because we want to have if there is going to be a problem in any area, we want to have some early indication of that so that we can adjust the spending side of our operations accordingly, so as to prevent any revenue deficit from occurring. So we've been monitoring the revenues closely, and through the first 5 months of the year here, actually we have a couple more weeks to December to go before we can see how we're doing for the first half of the year. But through November, looking at all of the general fund and enterprise fund operations overall, I'd have to say that we're trending towards hitting all of our revenue estimates in a favorable manner, and there really hasn't any area of concern at this point. Even with the announcement of state aid and 9C cuts mentioned by the governor about a month ago, even all the information coming out of the state legislatures that local aid will not be touched. And so we really, at this point, through the first 5 months, have not identified any real areas of concern as far as our revenues go.
Indeed, so it's all looking pretty good. And as I look at the report you sent me, I'm looking, obviously, it's some of the charges for service, and it looks like the parking, the beach parking, was something that I was looking at, and obviously that's something that is over for this fiscal year. Looks like it remained pretty flat, a little down from last year, but of course we didn't have as hot of a summer this year as we did last year.
Yeah, I mean, it could, that could be a number of things could have factored into that, and obviously the weather is probably the most key component of that. So, depending upon how many sunny days and how many hot days we may have had, it will really impact, the beach parking revenues. But like you said, it's pretty consistent where it's been for the past 3 years, and so there really is no major concern in that area. One area that we continue to see some really healthy growth and activity in is the building permit area. We saw some significant increases in our building permit revenue last year. That remains the same this year. We're right up to where we were last year at this point in time. And both last year and this year was significantly more than it was 2 to 3 years ago. So there still seems to be a lot of activity out there in a sense of people coming in and pulling permits to do renovation work. Not a lot of new construction,
right?
But a lot of renovation work, which is a good indication that the economy is that people are getting more confidence in the economy and investing in their properties.
And Milne says the town has also seen increases in motor vehicle excise tax, another good indication that the economy continues to strengthen. Just one meeting tonight. The Shellfish Committee meets tonight at MEA headquarters on Finney's Lane at 7:30. Well, be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we will get a preview of this week's Town Council meeting with President Jessica Rapgrassetti. We'll talk with Airport Manager Bud Brialt, plus we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.